Thank you for joining me on the climax of today's edition of TMI as we look at the issues surrounding the loan request by the federal government, which amounts to $3 billion loan request. And this is aimed at funding the power sector. And you agree with me that this has been really generating heated debate, and various persons have been making comments on why the federal government should embark on this loan. Privatization of the power sector basically should be the responsibility of the private business to seek for its loan. And looking at that, the $16 billion from the past government that was really that got sunk into the power project, and then that of 2015 till date, which also took 1.2 trillion naira. Tempers are rising. Issues are coming up from the polity on why still embarking on the drive of getting this loan. And we look at $3 billion adding to the present debt profile of the country, which amounts to 25 trillion at present. And that is really causing the issues. But well, discussing this with me, charting the way forward for Nigeria and how to tackle the issue of power, which has been like a recurring decima in our across our political landscape and our people Nigeria, is one who I would say an articulate gentleman, and he is the senior pastor of Gracevine Chapel, and he is a lecturer, University of Benin, Department of Biochemistry, Reverend Professor Jerry Orwe. Thank you for coming, Jerry.
It's my pleasure being here.
And next, I have one who was one time aspirant under the CPC in Edo governorship race in 2012, and also an aspirant under the APC in Edo 2016 governorship race. He is erudite, articulate, and he is no one else but Honorable Fred Uyigwe. Thank you for coming, Fred.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Philip.
All right.
Good morning to you, viewers.
I'll start with you, Jerry. We've been having these issues about funding the power sector, and we can go on and on tracing the historical lane that we've been on as a country, but still trying to find our feet on it. And now, what is your opinion about this present state of the government's requesting for the $3 billion loan?
Thank you so much, Philip, and once again, good morning, viewers. Well, why not trying to strike off a controversy from the very onset? Let me first put in perspective. You talked about the $16 billion that went down the drain. I think largely that is yet to be ascertained because the former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said again and again that it was never a $16 billion. That what was spent on his government was about $3.7 billion US. But that having been said, that's not to say that we have not spent so much, before now. At least we know that from what the then Permanent Secretary, Minister of Power, made available, a whopping $13.75 billion was spent from 1999 to 2015 before Buhari took over power. And we also are aware that in his first 4 years, at least Osibajo said so himself, that the Buhari government had put in about $700 million still in the same power project. This is neither here nor there, really, because the truth remains that we can't run away from the issue of fixing power. But my major worry most time is that we have to keep borrowing into the pockets of individuals. That should, to me, be a detailed forensic audit of what has happened in the past. Let's know what happened to the large sums of money we have spent. And then let us be sure that whatever we're going to borrow now is not also going to end up the same way the other one ended up. I hook it dead for now, and probably we'll have to throw some more light.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Fred Uyigwe, what's your bite on this? It's been a long way.
The problem is that we do have an economy that has a multifaceted problem. It's like a hydra-headed
monster
that we are having to confront. we need to confront the issue of terrorism on the one hand, to make sure that we have what we yearn for, which is an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and for us to be able to attract foreign direct investors. Power sector, it's a very important aspect of that whole mix that we must have to be able to do that. And you cannot say because we have these other problems, we will not fix this. So whichever one we are able to fix first is not going to solve our entire problems at the same time, but it's a step in the right direction. The concern of most financial experts in borrowing more money is that we are already over-leveraged. We have already borrowed too much. There's a rule of thumb for borrowing. Okay, that is usually like 50-50 or ratio 1-to-1. Okay, if you are, or let's say ratio 2-to-1. If your GDP, I mean not GDP, if your revenue, it's hypothetically $100 million, then you should not borrow anything more than $50 billion, $50 million.
Okay.
Okay. So, but right now, the concern of the financial experts is that we are at a stage where we are over leveraged, we are over borrowed, and what we are having to spend to service the debt is like 70% of our revenues. So that leaves just about 30% to take care of our recurrent and our capital expenditure, which will be dismal. It's like there will be no development. So we cannot afford to borrow too much. But we have so looted and so corrupted our system to the extent that we are looting ourselves into bankruptcy. We are becoming, as a nation, a bankrupt nation, economically. And to do that, we have to do we have to make a gamut of adjustments to be able to get ourselves out of it, to get us within acceptable thresholds. And that is where we are not right now. So borrowing this money, many of the financial experts assert, would have been better if it was locally or domestically done, rather than rather than by foreign lenders.
Yes.
Okay. Because the foreign lenders, they will hold you and they will strangle you. But if it is domestically done, you can actually work with them and recycle some of the, or refinance.
Okay. Okay.
Refinance the loans internally.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where we are.
Okay.
But we do need to borrow.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at the point where you said that there should be like an auditing process before we even embark on the current loan. There should be an auditing process of the privatization sector and seeing how it works. But can you by that also say that the privatization of the power sector was on the wrong footing?
Well, I really would not say it was on the wrong footing. When I say forensic auditing of the past, I meant to say that there's been no much accountability on what have been borrowed and spent so far or invested so far in the park sector. And in my mind, to be very, very honest with you, I also think that $3 billion is a joke if you want to fix the park sector in Nigeria. Because experts estimate that if you want to generate 1,000 megawatts of electricity, you would need about $1.2 billion US. So, and I'm asking myself, what are they going to do with $3 billion? I hope we're also sincere. If you need $1.2 billion US to generate 1,000 megawatts, And we are also told by those who know that this nation required not less than 180,000 megawatts to survive.
So that's a far cry from what the federal government is asking for.
So if we take, assuming we invest wholeheartedly the entire $3 billion into power generation, right, which is what we hope they will do, from the estimate they have given us by the expert, $1.2 billion to 1,000 megawatts, it means we're not even going to get 3,000 megawatts from there. You know, so we need to be sure, first and foremost, exactly what do we need this money for? One. Two, how far can this money go in alleviating our problem? Is it a matter of borrowing money to buy biscuits and Coke, and at the end we're back to square one? This, to my mind, are issues that are clear. Like, I agree with him perfectly. We can't run away from fixing the power sector. But the way and manner we go about fixing the power sector must also be clear to everyone that we are honest about what we're doing. That's my major worry. Well, I do not, back to your question, I do not think that it was wrong to have privatized the power sector.
But the hands handling it.
That's the point. Again, it again calls to question the sincerity of those, not just the operators, but the regulatory agency. Because if people are underperforming, or if ab initio they even lack the capacity to deliver, why were they considered? Why were they considered? So these are the issues I think we should be honest about in addressing. And until honesty comes to the fore, I mean, they may most of their way through. The debt management office is already saying that, well, at the moment we are already within the borrowing limit of, right now we're about 19% of our GDP in terms of indebtedness, and that they have fixed an upper limit of 25%. And I'm asking myself, must still exhaust the upper limit you have fixed for 25%? So until you borrow up to 25% of your GDP, you are not going to stop. Does it make sense to just borrow for the sake of borrowing? What happened after 3 years, 4 years from now? Are we going to be able to account to say that after the $3 billion that was borrowed, we have made significant improvement on our power sector? If the answer is no, the borrowing doesn't make sense. That's my argument.
Okay, let's look at how the government can gain trust from the people. Looking at the various issues that has emanated from the polity over the power sector by the past governments and even the challenge of the present government. How can the government bring trust in the area of having this privatization sector of the power sector in right position?
Transparency is the key. There are systems, there are transparent systems that can be put in place to actually gain the people's confidence, that the people can see overtly that yes, this is what is being done. And besides, there are certain nations that I think we should be careful dealing with when we are making huge capital investments such as we discussed now. Okay. The reason, for example, I prefer nations like the United States, I mean companies from nations like the United States, the GEs, the AEPs and all of that.
What about the Siemens giants from Germany?
They are giants, Nippons and all of that.
Because we understand that the government has already signed an MOU for them to revamp our power sector.
But what they do, what those ones do is that they hold the companies, whether they are operating in foreign countries, they hold them accountable. American companies hold their companies accountable and do not allow their executives to accept bribes. So that's what we need. Because it is obvious that we cannot supervise our own expenditures.
We cannot, as a nation.
Yes, we cannot supervise our expenditures honestly. Let me put it that way. We cannot honestly supervise our expenditure. So we need third-party nations that have such regulations in place. Then you look at Japan. Nippon Electric is their giant electricity company. Japan is investing tremendously in Africa, making commitments to the development of Africa. So you can give concessions to companies from such nations. So if we use the money judiciously, I believe it will be a step in the right direction. One thing is we must put in mind is this. From when electricity was invented, or let's say invented, discovered, okay? And Nigeria keyed in, and we have been having installations for over 100 years. We have, over that time, acquired assets in generation, in transmission, and in distribution, all over the place. And much of that asset, it's moribund, unmaintained, lying dysfunctional. So we need to infuse capital to repair what we can, discard what we can, acquire new systems. What this particular loan is supposed to be targeted to per what we hear, it's the transmission aspect of this, of the
whole process.
The whole process.
Yes.
Okay. At first, we all believed that we had problems with generation, but the federal government has come to say that we are generating more than we can.
We can really transmit. Yes.
Okay, and that we need to now transmit. So, if you have excess capacity in one aspect, what do? I think we also have neighboring countries. Okay. So if you are generating too much, transmit what you can, sell to neighboring nations the excess that you are generating, make money and use it to finance your transmission so that you can get transmission to equate what you are generating. So you have to be able to do all those juggling.
When you say sell what you are generating, since you can't transmit all of them,
if you are generating,
shouldn't attention be to maximize the capacity to transmit what you generate?
The thing is that if you cannot transmit what you have generated,
as at just now,
yes, as at now, what happens to it? It lies waste. But if you go ahead and sell it, with the understanding that you are working towards fixing or elevating your transmission capacity, then you still have some income. So we need to be efficient in the whole system, the way we think, in the dynamics of the whole thing.
Thank you.
Both this, from generation to transmission to distribution. And like he has said, the regulatory body has failed us. Let's put it simple. Let's put it very honestly. The regulatory body has failed us. If ab initio these companies, the DISCOs, for example, and the GENCOs, were engaged on a privatization program, and they have been seen over this period not to have been competent, what do? You change them. But there's something else we could do, and that is you bring in more competitors to compete with them. And when they are not able to compete, they either fold up or sell to the new competitors. Okay. Let's take our own local BEDC, for example. I get about 7, and on days I'm lucky, 9 hours of electricity a day.
You're lucky.
In 24 hours.
In 24 hours. So,
and you said he's lucky to get up to 9.
So what you have told me right there is that is your capacity. Okay? And that you lack the capacity to provide electricity for the remaining
17 or so hours.
14 or 15 hours a day. So let's bring in other companies to fill in that gap, to compete with them, and to and to begin to approach the consumers.
I like your business approach in that respect. But before I come back to you,
I think a couple of fallout from this
analysis
that I probably would want to pick up. We claim that the issue we have is with transmission. But that's not wholly true. That's not wholly true. The government will tell you that we are generating more than we can transmit. But the distribution companies will tell you that they can only give out what is generated. I mean, let's look at the figures. It's not enough to politicize figures because you want to paint your ministry white. The distribution companies are arguing that no, that's not the position. Because clearly, for instance, they have come to openly say that what we generate is in the neighborhood of over 4,000 megawatts. And if that is the case, in fact, the argument is that somewhere around April 2019, we went down as low as 3,500 megawatts. And so we can't claim that we are generating, and remember what I said earlier, we're looking at 180. South Africa has a population of about 67 million people, and they are generating 48,000 megawatts, and they are taking up into 79,000. And we are hovering around 4,000 thereabouts.
And if you say 180, you seem like overwhelming us that we may not be able to get there. But let's look at even 7,000 megawatts, because the government was saying that at the end of 2020, they'll be able to achieve even beyond that. So if we have that in place, like you did say, that most of all this, like picking from what Honorable Fredo Igwe said, that most of all this, we seem to have a problem with supervising our expenditures honestly, and so we need a third party. Would you now say that that should be the case?
That's another form of colonialism. It just shows that as a nation we have failed. Because for crying out loud, what is all the fight against corruption if we cannot institute a transparent process system for doing things? If we, after 59 years or so as a nation, we still need supervision body to tell us how to spend money, then it's quite unfortunate. Why do we have all the experts we have? Again, it comes down to the point of honesty and transparency. Every time you put sentiment ahead of competence, which is what is playing all around in this country.
Even at the point of the distribution companies.
Absolutely.
Yes, even
Absolutely.
metering gap.
You are not considering competence. You are rather playing to sentiment. Oh, we cannot relieve this person because it's connected to so and so. You are not looking at the ability to deliver. Well, the point I really was going to respond to was on the issue of selling to neighboring countries.
Okay.
First, you don't have anything close to what you need. Two, if you are going to sell to other nations, you still require a transmission line. It's not going to,
so you still have the same challenge.
It's not going to pass to the airwaves. You will still require the transmission process. And to my mind, it is important with fixed days. But my major worry is, are we honest with the way we do things? And until we bring that honesty to play, we would still be where we are. Well, get giants from outside to come and supervise what we're doing here. I do not think that would also mean for growth. Why can't we call to account those who we know have failed us? That, to my mind, is a major issue. Because if the people we're bringing from outside to supervise us for 5 years, they're not going to be here forever. They are also going to leave. So the same thing that had happened to every other thing that the colonial masters left behind would also be the same thing that will happen. Whoever's coming to supervise for a while and leave, they are not going to be their tent here forever. We should develop our own capacity to be self-supervising.
Maybe you
maybe
you misunderstand me when I use the word supervision. I said those countries that are able to, that would hold their companies, because we are not going to be able to construct these facilities ourselves. These are facilities that are going to be constructed by foreign multinationals that are known to do that. And only those countries that are able to hold their own companies accountable are the ones we should be dealing with. Because there are countries too that we are known, or that are known, to support their companies, whether or not they come here and enter into corrupt partnerships with us. And we cannot continue to deal with such companies because we are shortchanged. I mean, the list is long if we have to go through the different infrastructural projects and facilities that we have tried to develop that cost 10, 20 times what some other countries are doing the same thing for.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
If that is the case, we have to come up with an alternative. We have to come up with a system whereby we can control all of that.
Okay.
I'll tell you this, for example, and the reason I'm saying this, there was a project I was involved in, okay, that required importation of huge pipes, oil pipes and all of that. The people decided that they will not buy from the United States because the United States will not play ball, will not, will not give them bribe. So they decided to do it with China. And then the pipes came back a year and a half late.
Wow.
Whereas those things were there in the United States readily available.
All right.
So these are things we must be sincere with ourselves. If we want to be efficient, we'll be efficient.
Okay, thank you. In case you're just joining us, it's TMI Tuesday, and the topic is funding power sector and looking at the $3 billion loan request by the federal government. I've been having a chat with Reverend Professor Jerry Orwe, who happens to be the senior pastor of Gracevine Chapel, and of course, Honorable Fred Oyigwe. Well, we'll be taking a break, and after the break, we'll be extending the frontiers of this discussion as we wrap up at that end. Don't you go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Thank you for still being there this morning on ITV, and I still have the presence of the lecturer, University of Benin, Department of Biochemistry, and also the senior pastor of Gracevine Chapel, and there's no one else but Reverend Professor Jerry Orwe. Thank you for your time. And of course, Honorable Fred Oyigwe, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
And then as we round off this discussion, start with you, Jerry. We'll look at the issues that the discos are faced with, in raking money to expand the revenue in order to be able to tackle the issue of distribution. And in that aspect, they usually say that there's this poor payment, dragging of payment, which sometimes leads to violence. How do we tackle that in that aspect?
Well, again, it shows that we were not quite ready for the transition from postpaid metering to prepaid. I would have thought that the man who wants to sell an item would have put in place a means of recouping his income. It's hard to blame someone you have given power to for not paying when you have not put in place an acceptable means of accessing what he has consumed. We can't keep blaming those who are consuming for as long as we have estimated billing in place.
Yes.
And if it is prepaid, of course, once you're out of credit, you're out of it. And it stops there automatically. But that's not to say also that people should not be honest in their dealings. If you have consumed power, you should pay. But I think the major issue most times is that people complain.
Of being exploited.
Of being exploited. I mean, you spend one whole month and you probably didn't have light for more than 2 weeks, and then you will give you one bill and you're asking yourself, where on earth did this come from? So you always keep having that problem until we're able to deal with the issue of metering.
Okay. Okay. Your final words on this?
Well, on metering or generally?
Generally, on the topic.
On a final note, I would say it is important to fix the power sector. We can't run away from that. It is very, very important. But however, we need to demonstrate some measure of transparency in the things that we do. we need to do transmission, but haven't even generated enough. So both the generating companies and the transmission companies and the distribution company have a lot still to do. It's going to require money, but while borrowing, let's be sure that we're not borrowing to buy biscuit and Coke, and then the problem remains with us.
Okay, thank you. Your final words on this, as you may comment on the expanding revenue base of discourse.
To go into business without having a clear path as to how to recoup your investment, it's suicide. It's economic suicide. Trusting and hoping that your consumers or your customers will be honest is not a strategy. What the discourse ought to have done is to have a clear path, a clear system by which they can recoup their revenues. In the United States, for example, meters are not placed within houses. They are placed outside of it. And in recent times, what we have around in our country, all over the country, is that we have fences. So the meters are within the compound, and then they become inaccessible to those who read them. But if they had a strategy whereby the meters are placed outside the fence, but they can be read by both those who are reading meters for the purpose of preparing their bills.
I think that's what they're even working towards now, even to have it on electric poles.
So that is the best, that is just the best strategy for all of that.
Okay, thank you.
So, but as to what we need to do, generally...
In the overall?
Yes, overall, I think we should examine ourselves as citizens of this country and be more patriotic. We should think about the future generations. We can't just be thinking about the here and now alone.
Thank you, Honorable Fred Uigwe. He equally passes as a finance expert and a politician. Thank you for taking time to be with us on the show. And of course, thank you, Reverend Professor Jerry Orwe. And we hope you will be having this great opportunity to also join us on our subsequent editions.
It will be my pleasure.
All right, that's the much we can take on the discussion. Don't forget, it's still TMI, and BJ Bry is next with insurance segment.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Good morning, viewers and listeners. We welcome you to the insurance segment. With me in the studio, I have Mrs. Omenago Odia and Pastor Datimi Ojokojo. You're both welcome.
Good morning, viewers, and thank you again for being there. We appreciate all of you.
Good morning, viewers. It's good to be here again.
Yes, we'll take our quote, and our quote says, "Let your smile change the world. Don't let the world change your smile." Insurance is the smile to change the world. I think that's a good one to start our program this morning on the insurance segment. Pastor Datimi Ojokojo, the smile world.
We may not have enough time to exhaust, but it's a very powerful quote. People should wear a smile. Smile is better than a frown. Simple and short.
It's even better for our health.
Exactly.
To smile.
So we are talking still on proposal form, and we are closing our discussion on proposal form. We have said proposal form is a list of questionnaire used in the motor insurance business. And in our closing, we have also talked about the declaration points in the proposal form. And today we are going to talk about Know Your Customer, which is called the KYC, as it were. And the KYC is a full demonstration of what is called the insurable interest, really practicalized. For you to be involved in an insurance, you must have an interest. You must be a stakeholder. You must be the one that will lose if there's any accident that will really occur. And a demonstration of that is what we want to really talk about this morning. The KYC, Know Your Customer. Pastor Datimi Ojokojo, let's start from that point there.
It's very important that the details of who is, the insurable interest. In insurance, we call it insurable interest. The person who is to lose or the person who suffers as a result of a loss. Having details of the person is very necessary. We want to know, who are we dealing with? Is this person a fake or is this person genuine? Because insurance is very careful, just like in any business. Whether it's a bank, You know, they want to know, who are we dealing with? Can his address be verified? Does he have a valid identification? Is he a Nigerian or a foreigner? All those are very important facts. You know, does he live within a certain environment? You know, so those facts are important before we can deal in insurance.
Yeah. Mrs. Odia, some documents are required outside the form that will be completed for the KYC. Some documents are required to be submitted. Can we learn of such documents? And then the importance of this we are trying to emphasize is that some persons might say, what is the business again of insurance? Have I not given you the vehicle license, the purchase receipt of the vehicle I bought? Why this request again, Mrs. Odia?
Well, insurance is credible business. We do credible business, and then we want to deal with credible people. So information like if it's a company, the certificate of incorporation, the ID that identifies who you are, where you are, and what you do, so that the information you give we know is real, and then we're dealing with a real person.
Yeah.
So that also helps to fast track the process of putting the insurance in place.
Okay, so what kind of identity do we really need, Pastor Datimo Jokoji?
We need any valid national ID,
okay,
which is either the driver's license, the voter's card, international passports. You know, then, yes, national ID card of today. So those are basic things that are required. Then also for corporate organizations, your certificate of incorporation. You know, we have some other forms from CO2 and CO7. So some of those are required for corporate entities. Very important.
So the value of the KYC is to know the customer better.
Yeah.
And know the customer even from the beginning of the contract that is to be entered.
Yes.
So that at the end of the day, there will be a clear picture as regards what the issues relate to. This has become part of the business of insurance requirements in making for a proper insurance documentation. Yeah. And just like we said, the questionnaire, which is the proposal form, you are expected to read over and over to ensure that what information you are given is correct to the best of your knowledge and to your ability. Because that's going to form the basis of the contract that you are going to really enter with the insurance company. And then when we are talking about declaration, we are saying it is not just a one-side affair. It is a 50-50 affair. The insurance companies must also tell exactly what the conditions they are going to offer in the contract. It's not going to be a blindfolded contract where we have seen your proposal form and so whatever we like we'll give to you. It is on the strength of what you have desired that will be given to you, based on what you have also paid as premium that will be offered onto you. We thank you for watching, and like we say, partner with us if you have any challenge, and if you want to know what class of insurance to take to protect your business or your individual person, we are ready to also offer you. You reach us in the insurance segment. God bless you for watching. Have a wonderful day.